I'd always been interested in the big name composers and had a real fondness for the Morricones and the Barrys and Lalo Schifrins, and had a lot of music that would have been comprised of traditional film scores. And I suppose it's what started to create, I guess, a creative impetus in me to approach my guitar playing in a different way.
We hadn't done anything musically for quite some time, and actually both myself and Matthew had nearly kind of fallen out of the music thing altogether, which was a real shame. And I kind of felt like there was never really going to be another opportunity to kind of play music again, like in the way that we had done in the past.
The thing that kind of sparked things off was a final year student in Dunleary asked me to do music for her final year project.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Really wonderful filmmaker called Katie Lincoln, and myself and Cameron recorded a piece of music for Katie. And I think that's what kind of got us thinking about film music again.
Careful, sweetie.
That's where it started, and I think the notion of 3Epkano is something that formed a little while after that. Certainly myself and Cameron had a vision. We weren't 100% sure, what that would translate into in real terms, but we certainly had a creative vision. We just weren't sure where the project would go.
I was sceptical, to be honest with you. I didn't know really exactly what he was thinking of doing. It seemed a little bit, at the very start, it seemed a little bit brave. I hadn't really heard of that many people doing it before. It was not something I was that familiar with. Matthew obviously came up with the idea. He had a good idea of what type of musicians he really wanted. Now, then that kind of set me thinking to people that I've worked with in the past.
The group came together relatively quickly. We initially spoke to a chap called Richard McCullough, who was a friend of Cameron's. They'd worked together in Windmill Lane Studios. And from there, the bass player and drummer slotted in very readily because Lawrence is an old friend and a fine musician. And James, his brother, is also a fine musician, and we've become very good friends over the course of this adventure, if you like. So the 5 musicians who comprise guitar, bass, drum, keys came together fairly quickly. Finding string players took a little bit more time, but not much more time. Cameron had good contacts to the cellist and the violist, and I don't think it took too long for them to realise that, I think something very special was in its was starting to kind of take shape. The first film we worked with, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, was specifically chosen. The film lends itself to a degree of kind of musical and or even sonic experimentation by virtue of its expressionistic approach.
I know myself and Matt felt a bit of pressure over the cues, but thankfully we came up with a way of the cues being they could move in and out of each other. There was nice movement in them, so if something did spill a little bit, it was never a massive concern, especially for that movie, Caligari being so, just lent itself very well for being your first movie. It was a good one. If we'd picked something like Pandora's Box or something like that, that would have been, I don't think we would have been able to do it. it was a lovely experience. I remember actually the rehearsal with obviously with James being such a great drummer and everything else, and all the musicians being so damn good, where it was like, you know, a simple piece that maybe me and you had an idea for, then when it kind of came together with the strings and everything, it kind of just set you on, like, it was just such an emotional experience, and it corny way to put it, but it was such a lovely thing, you know, and you know, that was the thing where it was like, wow, if we can do this live, it will be really, really stunning.
I do really think that, and genuinely feel that, you know, any organisation, you know, or creative project like this is predicated on, you know, certain kind of lines of friendship. It becomes a real labour of love if you can maintain those lines of friendship. Now, it's a delicate and it's a fragile thing, and you know, like any collective of individuals, it almost takes on the dynamic of a family, and every family has its dysfunctional components, but every family also has really strong relationships predicated on huge affection and respect.
It's more like a family than friendships, because there's a lot of to and fro, tugging and pulling, you know, like a family would have. So it's no, fantastic friendships have been built up over the time. I've become more passionate about 3Epkano now than I would have been when I was very busy in work, when there was a lot more money coming in, because at the end of the day, it's a release, and it's a fantastic release, and it's a fantastic release that now when we do a gig, you can make a few bob. You know, you don't make very much, but you make a little few quids. You know, not that that's what it's about, but it does help. You know, so I think, yeah, the work thing now, even though because work is a lot more slack, you know, it's made 3Epkano actually more important. You know, you realise what's actually the really important things. You know, so.
It's very hard to sum up a process, a collaborative process, because you tend to invoke kind of a very emotive, or certainly I would invoke very emotive kind of terms to describe that, and I'm not sure if they're always accurate, because the satisfaction that I get, and it's a wonderful sense of satisfaction and pride, it changes all the time. I do walk away from every completed project with an enormous sense of pride at having achieved something that 10 years ago I thought would have been impossible. And I guess that's where I do tend to grin a lot, because I do feel very lucky.
Thank you.